The first thing I want to do is place our discussion of journalism in a bigger picture about women and media industries. So, there's an interesting organization called the Gina Davis Institute, which is founded by the Hollywood actor Gina Davis and is devoted to studying a few things. The primary goal, I guess, of the Gina Davis Institute is to lobby for a media industry where various forms of media storytelling are more inclusive when it comes to gender issues. The problem that motivates the Gina Davis Institute is the perception that women are under and misrepresented in both media industries and media content. I suppose the bottom line is that the Gina Davis Institute makes a point that other media scholars have been making for several decades. And this is that there's a problem globally with regards to unequal gender rights, unequal pay, unequal job opportunities, and so on and so forth. And the argument is that media contribute to that problem by failing to portray women in a diverse range of roles. The basic idea is that it's very hard for women to imagine that they can do anything in this world, that they can pursue a number of different career paths when they see that portrayed so infrequently in the media. And there's a couple of things. A lot of the Gina Davis Institute's work has been doing content analysis of media content that demonstrates gender inequality, the absence of, the relative lack of women in lead roles, the relative lack of dialogue that's given to women in to lead characters who are women in Hollywood movies, so on and so forth. But a large part of their research has also been to look at the presence of women in media industries. Now, so we have some statistics here. So about 1 in 4 creative jobs globally go to women. The places where they've looked specifically is they've looked in France, they've looked in South America, particularly Brazil, in North America. Everywhere they've looked, it's about 1 in 4. Although some places are better than others. Actually, Brazil does comes out better than the United States, for example. And so this has raised a number of questions, which is, why is that the case? Why are only 1 in 4 creative jobs given to women? It does kind of raise the question of what are the barriers that are placed in the way of women who want to work in creative industries. And I shouldn't mention that there's a lot of interesting work on that regarding gaming. But what that does is it places the question of women journalists in a broader global media industry wide focus. Now, I should mention something here. I suppose there's an implicit assumption here that we would get better representations of women in media if there were more women involved in the production of media narratives. And that's a problematic assumption. So, the feminist writer Sarah Banet Weiser, for example, says that we can't assume that just simply having more women in media production would produce more sensitive and diverse narratives about women. But that said, if we look at the case of journalism and Kate Adie and the case of Iraq women journalists, what we actually can say is that in the sphere of journalism, women have been at the forefront of driving different forms of journalistic storytelling. So, when women have become prominent in journalism, there has been a change. under some circumstances in how those media stories are told. But certainly, we can see that there are reasons for thinking about what do we find out about the nature of creative work by looking at women who work in media industries. And there is a recent example from Australia. Hopefully, those of you who follow the news will be. This is Emma Alberici, who was up until recently a an ABC journalist, and has resigned. I suppose she's reached a settlement with her employer, the ABC. What happened was Emma Alberici did a story on the Malcolm Turnbull government, the previous coalition prime minister, um, and uh, and was subjected to a great deal of criticism on that story by the coalition. Was sanctioned for perceived errors in the story, but was also the whole thing became very personalised because the argument took to Twitter, where Malcolm Turnbull and Emma Alberici were sort of tweeting each other with making various arguments. And Emma Alberici is now effectively withdrawn from media producing. She doesn't want to be on TV anymore. She doesn't want to do the job anymore. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that this was to do with sexism. This is a matter that's still being mapped out. But what I am saying is here is another example of where the work that was done by a woman journalist has opened up a range of questions about bigger issues. What is the role of the ABC? What is the relationship between the ABC and the government? So these very big structural issues have come to focus on the work of a particular journalist, Emma Alberici. And so what we're going to be doing is showing how looking at how particular women journalists have done their job has been a useful way of identifying broader shifts that are happening in the journalism industry, and further illustrates the value of trying to look at how industries work by looking at particular people who work within them.